maybe bring this up with Bridget and Lana. You know, I mean, this is actually a big deal, making people look that good in the middle of this, isn't it?
Standing back.
I have to say, my favorite thing about being on the show is making everybody look so beautiful and then getting to fuck them up. Nobody gets to be pretty forever on our show. So, as you can see by all of this, we really never have a dull moment. And I love my job so much. Every day is different. Every day is like a new experience. I learn something every day, and I have the most amazing team that I go to work with every day. I feel very blessed.
Yes, but you also, if I recall, you actually came from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so you've had about a decade's experience in the vampire world at this point.
This is officially my 11th season on a vampire show. It's a lot of nights, because on a typical time, on a Monday, we'll start anywhere between 4 and 5 a.m., and by Saturday morning, I'm coming home and my kids are waking up at like 7. So we get a very short turnaround, so it's something that you do because you love it. I mean, very passionate about what we do.
How does it actually work for the two departments working together? Because I know you guys have a good relationship, but is it a fairly organic thing? Like, do you folks break down the scripts? Like, let's say there's going to be a particular bite, then you would make the pieces and pass them on to Bridget's team, or does it just depend on what's in the script from episode to episode?
Well, it depends on the script episode to episode, and typically we'll do a breakdown, and Bridget and I will be on the phone, and we'll send emails back and forth, and most of the time, Bridget is well aware of things before I am, so she'll give me the heads up, like this is coming up, or that this has changed, and she's really good about keeping her finger on the pulse about what's happening, and it's just a matter of good communication between the two, because she's on site, she's boots on the ground every day,
right.
I'm off site, so it really helps because she hears things when they first because things do change on a television schedule. So, she'll call me, tell me about a schedule change, and after I've had my heart attack, I'll get up and then I'll go to Dan and this has changed now, so that really helps.
Well, basically the way we like to break it down is they don't need makeup effects guys there every day. The straight makeup department is more than capable of handling transfers, tattoos, all those kind of things. So mainly when Masters Effects or guys in the shop actually come down there, it's more for these bigger, more elaborate effects, like the stuff that's actually working makeup effects. But you guys handle almost everything in terms of the bites, small prosthetics, again, tattoo applications, which is something that shouldn't be forgotten about. True Blood has an awful lot of tattoo applications. I don't even know if people watching the show realize that all that's fake, and that's the work of Lana, Bridget, and their wonderful team.
If we're not covering a tattoo on an actor, we're adding one. Some of them get both. But anything that's a big test, like you saw, generally these guys come down and do it, and then we work as a team. I mean, I've never worked with a house that's been such supportive, lets us play with them. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better team.
But you guys, it's like you said about being the ones that are on the ground. You're the ones that have that relationship with the actors. And the actors on this show have to go through a lot of stuff. So I should think there has to be a real level of trust between the cast members and the makeup team, because they're really putting themselves in your hands on a fairly regular basis, aren't they?
Absolutely. And in a show to this caliber, I don't know if you guys are aware of what a double up is, but often we are shooting 2 units at one time. And that's the biggest challenge of our show is the continuity and trying to keep everybody on the same page. And the best way I've found to do that at this point is every actor on the show gets done by their particular makeup artist. And then they know that when they get to set, they may be covered by somebody else. But to keep it consistent and to have the actors feel comfortable about what they're looking like, and an actor should never have to worry about the continuity of what they look like. And that happens a lot when they, are like, I don't know if this is right, because if somebody else is doing them, it's really hard to copy another artist's makeup. And as a department head, I hire a team, and I think I allow them to, develop. I give the notes that Alan gives, and then I hand it off. I say, you guys are artists, you're here for a reason, I trust your judgment. And we just work that way, and then everybody's responsible for their own continuity.
Yeah, in fact, Jeff, if you have that last slide, we have our team noted. least most of them. Hopefully we didn't miss anybody, but big thanks to them as well. We are really blessed to have a great group that we work with every day. It's been pretty cool to kind of ride this crazy show.
One of the things that it becomes apparent when you see some of the work that we've seen is that the actors really have to throw themselves into some of these effects that you're doing. And I should imagine, they read the script and it says, it's going to be burned through a crispy critter. But some of those makeup effects only work as well as the actors who can actually pull them off.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this has got to be the best cast I've worked with, I think, ever. I mean, that's quite a claim because we have a lot of cast members, a lot of reoccurring, and everybody is so gung-ho to do the material. I don't think we've ever had one issue, actually.
We have an amazing cast. Everybody wants to be there, and it's great. And there's nothing worse than doing a great prosthetic on somebody with like a broken arm, and then they're like, hey, they have to follow through by acting it out. Like, it hurts.
Yeah, I've had actors in overlapping age pieces saying, "Do you need the forehead?" And it's like, you never have that on the show. We've done some incredibly complicated things. We've covered people in, as you've seen, all sorts of goo, and they keep coming back for more.
Well, this is because I was thinking when you were trying the scene with the newscaster, getting deboned or whatever you call it. The actor who's playing Russell must be pitching into this so much. Not only that, but the scenes of him getting sort of burned up. There's all sorts of wonderful little bits when you watch those episodes where he's coughing up ash and stuff like
Oreo
that.
cookie.
Yeah, that was actually, when he was coughing up ash, it was Oreo cookie. But yeah, I do want to mention Dennis Miller, who plays the character of Russell. We couldn't have done what we did on season 3 without Dennis's wonderful performance. And to bring up again, when we did the Spinecasters spine rib, Dennis actually came by the shop for about a half a day, and we rehearsed it over and over again. And the whole thing about that is it was very difficult because we had 3 operators and 2 actors that all had to go off the split-second cue of his arm move. And to tell you the truth, that day before we were rehearsing, it wasn't so great. When we got the set, we had it so down, all our operators, all the actors, that we shot it like 7 times, and then we didn't get one bad take. That initially was supposed to have some visual effects augmentation on it, and the director, Scott Wynette, really pushed. He was like, I don't want any digital on this. This looks perfect the way it is. We don't need to add any more. Because initially the writers wanted the hand to actually come through and do one of these and withdraw back out as opposed to just the fist pop, which I'm so glad they decided not to do that because I think we've all seen that 100 times.
You mentioned, are there certain directors that will have fun with this as well? Because some directors are trying to meet their schedules, and some directors love this stuff, and they might even ask you to do a bit more and really push you guys in ways that you hadn't thought, just because they actually like to see great gags in their episodes.
Yeah, certainly. There's some directors that we'll just know going in are going to be asking for this, that, and the other thing. And there's other directors that we might suspect that they want to do things as a digital solution because of their schedule situation. On this show, for the most part, everybody's pretty gung-ho. I mean, everybody knows what the show is, and I think we have a good balance.
The thing I will say about the Russell makeup is we really did put Dennis through a lot. I mean, he was every inch of his exposed flesh was covered with these burn prosthetics, even to the point where we had black food dye in his mouth, so even the interior of his mouth was blackened. The thing is, putting him through all this, it finally came time to put in the contact lenses, and Dennis was looking at himself in the mirror. It's like, you've now taken away the only thing left that was me. It's like, can't I at least have my eyes? I'm like, Dennis, the lenses look great, they really sell it, and being a trooper like he was, he put the lenses in, and I don't think it made his performance suffer. I could see him through that makeup very easily.
I think another good thing on that makeup and a lot of the ways that we approach things is we try to avoid the traditional life cast, skull, mold, casting business. So obviously that's a general pipeline for makeup effect shops, but we try to add so much more to it. I mean, there's quite a bit that's just straight up fabricated, like the collodion buildup on this. A lot of the other pieces, it's not the same to, if you look at Russell's makeup and try to sculpt that and mold it, you'd never get that. many layers, many dimensions of different things. And so that's kind of important.
And you guys actually use the actors. It's not like you put somebody in makeup and it's a stuntman that has to go through it. These are principal
It has
cast.
to be done. Yeah.
Well, actually, we did make it.
Well, that's true.
Stunt masks.
Doesn't have to be
It's
us.
when they're dragging up. Any close-up stuff is all masks. But yeah, we actually made a dummy body for him, which we never used because Dennis was kind enough to jump in that cement, put pour cement all over him. But we actually had a full dummy body.
Still there.
I think he is.
Any other questions?
Any last questions before we wrap stuff, folks? Right here? In front row?
Oh, yeah. No. Those are Dr. Gordon's full scleral lenses. Everybody was wearing them when they were frenzied. And actually, I saw Sean here yesterday. Sean here? Sean, the on-set artist that does the lens applications here yesterday.
The transformation of going from a human eye, the pupil dilating out to that is a visual effect. And also, oddly enough, on Ryan, Jason Stackhouse's character, his are all a visual effect because Ryan can't wear lenses. Some people just can't have things in their eyes.
I think so. One last question. The question is about visual versus prosthetic effects. And thank you for asking a question that'll take an extra half hour.
Let's bring up the next reel.
What's those version of that?
Well, the quickie, the quickie for this show is they're quite aware of our skills, our abilities, which is great. And a lot of these little pre-bizes that we do really help, inform what the best choice is. We have our own particular rules. You'll notice the most visual effects houses, they seem to have some guidelines. The basic rule for us is, whatever really looks best and works best. It seems that practical stuff actually looks real when it's actually right there. If you have to generate this and render this, you're still having to build it, you're still having to light it, you're still having to film it, and then you have to composite and put it there. Things that have a lot of crazy movement or maybe defy the laws of physics, that's kind of hard for us to do, so we can give that to digital. When you have to contact things, it's usually better for practical. But our shop really enjoys splitting it, as much as possible, integrating it, as we like to say, where you can't tell. Because maybe some of you will agree, sometimes CG has a tendency of looking generated, and partially I think that's because our eyes have developed playing so many video games over the years, and we're starting to recognize how precise the engines are. And full practical sometimes looks like rubber, so it happens on both sides of it. So when you mix it, sometimes the assets of one are the liability of the other, and they kind of plug together differently. So there's a lot of choices. There is no black and white menu card, or do it this way or do it that way, but that's experience.
Andre, what would you like to say about that? I think we'll have to wrap it up after that, but that's a bit of your area.
Well, a good example for that is like the blood tears. 4 years of trying to master blood tears was quite a challenge because that is not something you find in nature. So originally we did practical, and it was a really touchy subject to try to get blood that close to an actor's eye. And then it was how do you get it to rim and actually come out. So that, a really good example is marrying the two. If it's a practical blood tear, we'll bring the blood up as far as we can, and then visual effects will marry it coming out the eye. A lot of the times we'll use practical blood tears as well if that's already been crying, you get that smudged effect. But to actually have the actor be a couple pages into their dialogue and then produce a tear, you don't want to run in and be like, let me get your blood tear in there, because it's really distracting to the actor. So that's when it would be just a visual effect. So, one sometimes really needs the other, and we work really well with our visual effects team, and we just kind of map it out together.
I mean, the computer, very powerful tool. Pretty much nothing you can't do, but it is just another tool. And at the end of the day, it's an artist using that tool, and it's artists using tools, creating things, telling stories. Because the other aspect of this, really I touched on, is this is a business, and there's a schedule, and there's a budget. And that can drive things as much as anything. We want to do the most creative art we can, but we also need to be responsible. Sometimes the best solution is often the simplest. And that may involve visual effects, or it may involve makeup effects, or it may involve nothing. just an actor performing. It's whatever's appropriate. And if you go into it with that, these solutions often present themselves very easily.